of his face she could make out didn't look happy. You get used to it. A flash of light down the hall, so fast she only saw it out of the corner of her eye, but it had definitely been light, and it had definitely been the bluish light of a ghost. Riley's breath caught. This was the time that, if she was a normal sort of person, she'd be able to say something reassuring and at the same time cool, the kind of thing that would make Riley feel brave but not patronized. And then they'd both sort of smile and head off down the hall to banish that ghost. But she was not that kind of person, and the last thing she had any idea how to do was reassure Riley and make him feel good about himself. Cliché was probably about the best she could do. "You'll be fine," was the one she gave him, and to her surprise, it seemed to work. "Come on." Every step they took, every slow step through the soup of bacteria and rot sucking at her boots, brought them closer to that faint death glow. She'd mixed some graveyard dirt and asafoetida earlier, stuck it in a bag in her pocket. Now she reached inside and grabbed a small handful. Ready. They moved a few steps in silence, broken only by the occasional plonk of water dripping from the ceiling behind them. Something rattled. Chess spun around to look but saw nothing. Ghosts weren't the only things that might hang out in abandoned buildings at night. They weren't in Downside, no, but they weren't exactly in the nicest area either. This building, which had once housed offices of some kind and a warehouse, stood just a few streets into Crosstown, a whole city block of condemned cement with a 10-foot chain-link fence around it. A chain-link fence with holes in it. She wondered how many neighborhood kids had made this their weekend hangout until 2 nights before, when one of them met a gruesome death just inside the front doors. Another tiny glimpse of light. "It is a ghost, right?" Riley whispered. "I mean, I feel like there's a ghost here, but could that be something else?" "It could be anything else, but it's probably a ghost, yeah." The comforting weight of her knife sat in her pocket. Debunkers weren't supposed to be armed. Fuck that. She'd rather take her chances with church discipline than with anyone or anything she might come across in a place like this. She probably wouldn't need the knife anyway. Damn it, the kid's nervousness was making her twitch, and as much as she sympathized with him, she really didn't need that at the moment. It had been a good 2 hours since she'd taken her pills, and while she still had time, she wasn't worried. Places like this didn't help her keep calm. All that filth, all those germs, soaking into the bottoms of her jeans, brushing against her skin, her hair, invading her lungs. People caught diseases from places like this, especially after a rain. Or they got their throats sliced open by ghosts armed with rusted shards of metal or whatever the fuck else. She edged her way down the hall, her back pressed against that gross excuse for a wall just because she couldn't really see well enough to walk down the center. The glow got stronger with every step, her fist clenched around the dirt. Another plonk, another rattle. Something like a whisper that could have been a voice or the sound of a makeshift blade leaving its sheath of soaked pulp or crumbled cement. The glow from a doorway another 10 feet or so down the hall. In its reflection, Riley's face looked even paler. The only thing keeping hers from looking the same, assuming it didn't, which she was just going to go ahead and assume, was the fact that she was still just high enough to be not quite as scared as she should be, and the fact that she was an absolute fucking expert at lying to herself. But with every step closer to that glowing doorway, that ability drew just a tiny bit farther away from her. Whatever. Wasn't like she could just turn around and run. So she took one last deep breath and spun around the doorframe with her arm ready to throw the dirt at the first dead thing.